Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to my reading journey. Today, we continue with the second part of The Headhunter. Let's begin. When I first saw Chloe Green, she was standing all in white in the doorway of her father's tile roofed dope house. She was polishing a silver cup with a cloth, and she looked like a pearl laid against black velvet. She turned on me and protracted, flutteringly protracted, but a while wiltingly disapproving gaze, and then went inside, humming a light song to indicate the value she placed upon my existence. Small wonder, for Dr. Stamford, the most disreputable professional man between Genoa and Valparaiso, and I were zigzagging along the Trophy Street tunelessly, signing the words of Auld Lang Syne to the air of Mother's Little Cold Black Coon. We had come from the ice factory, which was Majada's palace, or wickedness, where we had been playing brilliance and opening black bottles, white with frost, and we dragged with stings out of old Sandoval's ice-cold wads. I turned in sudden rage of Dr. Stamford, as sober as the verger of a cathedral. In a moment I had become aware that we were swine cast before a pearl. You beast, I said, this is half your doing, and the other half is the fault of this cursed country. I'd better have gone back to Sleepy Town and died in a wild orgy of currant wine and buns than to have had this happen. Stamford filled the empty street with his roaring laughter. You too, he cried, and all as quick as the popping of a cork. Well, she does seem to strike agreeably upon the retina, but I don't burn your fingers. All Majada will tell you that Louis DeVoe is the man. We will see about that, said I, and perhaps whether he is a man as well as the man. I lost no time in meeting Louis DeVoe. That was easily accomplished, for the foreign colony in Majada numbered scarce a dozen, and they gathered daily at a half-decent hotel kept by a Turk, where they managed to pitch together the fluttering rags of country and civilization that were left them. I saw DeVoe before I read my peril of the doorway, because I had learned a little of the game of war, and knew better than to strive for a prize before tasting the strength of the enemy. A sort of cold dismay, something aching to fear, filled me when I had estimated him. I found a man so perfectly poised, so charming, so deeply learned in the world's rituals, so full of tact, courtesy, and hospitality, so endowed endowed with grace and ease, a king of careless, halfly power that I almost overstepped the bounds in probing him, in turning him of the speed to find the weak point that I so craved for him to have. But I left him whole. I had to make bitter acknowledgment to myself that Louis de Woke was a gentleman worthy of my best blows, and I swore to give him them. He was a great merchant of the country, a wealthy importer and exporter. All day he sat in a fastidiously appointed office, surrounded by works of art and evidences of his high culture, directing through the glass window and windows the affairs of his house. In person he was slender and hardly tall. His small, well-shaped head was covered with thick brown hair, trimmed short, and he wore a thick brown beard, also cut close and to fine point. His manners were patterned. Before long I had become a regular and welcome visitor at the Greeny home. I shook my wild habits from me like a worn-out clock. I trained for the conflict with the care of a prize fighter and the self-denial of a Brahmin. As Chloe Green, I shall weary you wish no sonnets to her eyebrow. She was a splendidly feminine girl, as wholesome as a November peeping, and no more mysterious than a window pane. She had whimsical little tears that she had deduced from life, and that fitted the maxims of Epictetus like princess' gowns. I wonder, after all, if that old duffer wasn't rather wise. Chloe had a father, the Reverend Homer Greene, and an intermittent mother, who sometimes pallidly persisted over a twilight teapot. The Reverend Homer was a blur-like man with a life work. He was writing a concordance to the sculptures, and had arrived as far as King's, being presumably a suitor for his daughter's hand. I was timber for her literary outpourings. I had the family tree of Israel drilled into my head until I used to cry aloud in my sleep. And Aminadab begat J.I.C.S. and so forth, until he had tackled another book. I once made a calculation that the Reverend Homer's concordance would be worked up as far as the seven wiles mentioned in Revelation about the third day after they were opened. Louis de War, as well as I, was a visitor and an intimate friend of the Greenes. It was there I met him, the oftenest, and a more agreeable man or a more accomplished I have never hated in my life. Likely or unfortunately, I came to be accepted as a boy. My appearance was youthful, and I suppose I had that pleading, and homeless air that always draws the motherliness that is in women and the cruist theories and hobbies of pater families. No idea. Chloe called me Tommy and made sisterly fun of my attempts to woo her. With Dewar she was vastly more reserved. He was the man of romance, and to stir her imagination and deepest feelings had her fancy leaned towards him. I was closer to her, but standing in no glamour. I had the task before me of winning her in what seems to me the American way of fighting, with cleanness, and pluck. In and everyday devotion to break away the barriers of friendship that divided us, and to take her, if I could, between sunrise and dark, abetted by neither moonlight nor music nor foreign wiles. Alright, guys, thank you for joining me today, and see you tomorrow in the third part. Bye.